Hello, everyone. The TTS League for Marvel Crisis Protocol is in its last weeks for Season 14. I am interviewing the semi-finalists to find out a little more about the players that have made it this far. Joining me today is Dan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I just put out the hype trailer for you and the other three players. Did you get a chance to see it?
No, I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out later.
Okay, pretty cool. Yeah, it was a very fun weekend project that I put some time into, and doing the hype videos that I've done a couple of them before. They're really fun to make. I would look like a maniac a little bit because I would just be cackling in my basement about how funny the situation is. Like I'm listening, like just like all this strategic and thinking gameplay that takes place over 2 hours has been like clipped apart and put onto like a pretty fast paced song. It just like doesn't jive very well, but it kind of does. It's funny, but yeah, please check it
And
out.
I'm
And yeah,
as long as I'm sure if you get the all the big spikes over the course of all the games, it'll look like Marvel dice are pretty crazy.
yeah,
That's good
that's
too.
right. It does. The game does lend itself to big moments and all that. But yeah. Anyway, so you've made it to the top four. That's pretty cool. What do you think of the TT? This is your first league, by the way, too, as well. What do you think of the league as a whole?
Yeah, I mean it's been like a super positive experience for me. I think so. I just started playing Marvel January of this year. So I do play a little bit locally, but TTS is like a good way to kind of just be able to like get on your computer and find a game pretty
Right.
much whenever you want.
Yes.
And then when it comes to the league, I think like adding some structure to that and like having like a guaranteed opponent every week is just like pretty cool. You get visibility into probably like a lot of different strategies for the game. Obviously like the Swiss format means that your later games in particular, if you won a couple of your early games, are super super high quality.
Yes. Yes.
I've been super blessed to have like I think every person I played was super friendly and like had really good games with them. So yeah, it's been really fun.
That's pretty cool. So, uh, when did you get into the game?
Yeah, so I just started playing January this year. So about a little over 6 months now. Yeah.
And how did you find out about the game itself? Like, yeah, how did you discover this game's been out for 4 years? Like, so where have you been?
Yeah, so I think I was maybe talking to like a friend or something, and they mentioned it was a good like I probably expressed some interest in getting into like the tabletop stuff. I played a touch of casual 40K in the past, but had never really gotten super into it. I think one of my buddies kind of recommended this as like it's easier to get into kind of because the model counts are lower, but it still has like a lot of thought required to kind of play well. And then I think I probably saw maybe a video online and then just kind of went to a local gaming store, kicked off the game there, bought a collection secondhand, and then kind of took off from there.
That's pretty cool. So you've been playing mostly Defender since you picked them up. What drew you into that affiliation? How did you discover Defenders?
Yeah, so I think I've probably tried like a lot of the affiliations. That's probably the other great thing about kind of tabletop simulator is you can kind of just try everything. And so the reason I like defenders is like I just find the reroll mechanic to be very high expected value. So like the way I view the game is pretty mathy, I'd say. And like I think particularly among like a lot of the better players, I think people really try to minimize variance. Defenders for me were like I like the play pattern. Like they play pretty aggressive. They're pretty attrition focused. And then with kind of the rerolls and the importance that maintains on positioning, like I think you can get like an attrition team that's not like hyper spiky slash like you don't have that many games that are just like terrible and you just flub all your rolls. Like you obviously still have some, but like they add consistency to an attrition lineup, which like I found interesting.
Right. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm one of those players who doesn't know the math very well. I just kind of vibe it out, as I like to say. And yeah, I think that you're saying when you talk about you see other players in the community playing doing low variance strategies. I feel like I have succumbed to that in the past where I feel like I'm ahead on points and I will like stop engaging with my opponent to try to win, and when really like the constant pressure and constant engagement would have maybe led to a better chance of success. So,
Yeah, I mean that's one of the really cool parts about the game is like I feel like games can just be super different, right? Like there are certain games where if you can identify like, hey, I can literally just like run away and win, like that's obviously the optimal strategy at that point. But like being able to kind of identify like this is the type of game I need to focus on attrition versus scoring points, I think is something I find super interesting. And then also just like being able to think on the fly is like outcomes happen that are expected or unexpected. Yeah, I just find the game to be pretty deep in those dimensions.
right, yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. The so you for defenders, you had to lock in with them for the top 32 or top the everyone who made cuts, and then in the top four you had to relock in, and you also locked in again as defenders. Were there any characters that didn't make the cut the first time that are now in the new roster? How has your roster changed from like maybe Swiss to cuts to semifinals?
Yeah, so I think for Swiss, I rotated probably three or four characters in and out most weeks just to like try stuff. Um, I think there were decently material changes to my roster because of the recent tactics cards changes. The biggest ones were so exceptional healing, no matter the cost, and Age of Ultron all got bricked.
Right.
So Wolverine used to be an every game model for me, mainly because of the no matter the cost interaction on his flip side. So with that kind of going away, Ultron got removed also because Age of Ultron got bricked. And then I had Sabretooth in my roster as well, who I also don't feel is as good without exceptional healing. So I think the three I added were Shang-Chi, Black Swan, and Crimson Dynamo. Um, Dynamo is just really, really good at ease. And then Shang-Chi and Swan, I think, kind of provide like fast, hard hitting with good chase that like I felt like I needed to replace kind of Wolverine.
Right. Yeah, those are pretty cool picks. The Power Swan, we don't see too much, but I can understand the appeal. You've got that big spender, everything dies is could pop off quite a bit, especially with that trigger into the I beam. It would be pretty cool to see that go off in a game if she makes it onto your squad in one of your next one or two games in the league here. The and yeah, of course, everyone Crimson Dynamo has been the king of E's for a while now. So as I love the changes. Have you played a lot of Shang Chi? He's pretty new to the game.
No, yeah, so that's one of the problems. I think I've played two games with him now. But I do like it. He's a pretty intuitive play pattern, I think. And then I just feel like he slots super well. So I wanted to give him a whirl.
Yeah, I've played him in I think 3 or 4 games now, and it's interesting, right? Because he doesn't have a spender on his healthy side, but he has all of these different mechanics with his attack, his primary attack, and so the he's but overall I think he's really strong, and I think that I definitely was not surprised to see him added to your affiliation, your team, as well as I think another one of your opponents added him into their rosters as well. So, uh, okay. So anyway, were there any games that you played in the season that stick out in your mind? If you look back at all the games you have played, all the games you've played so far.
I don't think there's like one probably that sticks out like a ton. Like I said, I think I've had pretty high quality matches for the vast majority of the games. I probably had like a game or two that was a little bit more. kind of steamrolly because of dice or something, but particularly in the top 32, I think all three of the games I played have been pretty tight. Kind of came down to the wire. Played really good opponents in all three games. So yeah, I don't know if anything really jumps out.
There was one game to me that jumps out on paper at least, right? It's you're the first player in the, I would say, the modern era of the game, which I would interpret to be season 9 of the TTS League onward, because those seasons are all captured on Longshanks. And I looked back at every single finals game that was played, and not a single game one of the players ran unaffiliated. And so in one of your matches this season, you ran unaffiliated. So please tell me about what's going on in that matchup.
Yeah, so I think yeah, like for that match, so one of the only downsides of the TTS league I'd say is that scheduling certain games can be pretty hard. So I think that match was at 7 a.m. my time and I woke up like 5 minutes before. So going into that match, it was against I think like Thanos list. So I was like, all right, like I definitely need to run Daredevil, Wolverine, and Ultron. Just because like I think the counter to Thanos is just bringing like models that have exceptional healing or Age of Ultron, which means they can't kind of just randomly get KO'd super fast.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, Sabretooth's going to be super good here too, because he can run exceptional and he also can't get bricked. And then kind of zoned out that would make me unaffiliated. So that was probably like I got excited that in the moment where I was like, oh, Sabretooth's great here. Like, I'm just going to run him and kind of zoomed out of the, it would make me unaffiliated. But honestly, it worked out like pretty well. Like, they're just like those three characters, he just couldn't kind of take out. And then I ended up kind of removing his models before he could remove mine. So, yeah, I don't know if it was fully intentional, but it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, when you see the characters on the board, it's like, oh, that makes sense. And then when you see you uh, accidentally or like roll the defender's leadership, it's like, oh, wait a second, like like I think that before you rolled the defender's leadership, I think that everyone was like, oh, look at this, like he's this is a big brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like I don't know, like it's weird. Like if I could go back, I'd probably do Ancient One instead of Sabretooth there to be affiliated. But like seeing it play out, like I
It
think there's an
worked.
argument that it worked super well because like it's just like having three models that can't get spiked is good in that matchup.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. One of the I like to play this like game with myself, or I like to have these like secret achievements, like like as a gamer. And one of them was playing a point down, and in a like in a ranked event, and I did that, and that was really cool. Like I got to accomplish that. And one of the other things I want to do is like play unaffiliated, because it was I believed it to be the best decision at the time. So I'm a little like secretly jealous that you were able to do that. But yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's it was
I don't
cool.
know. I strongly doubt it's gonna come out and go forward, is what we'll say. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, looking ahead at your opponents, we've got Schmid, Curtis, and Sooner are all in the top four as well now at this point. What do you think of these players? Have you seen them play their games? Do you, what's your perception of your future opponents?
Yeah, so like I think obviously like all three of them I think are pretty tenured veterans, like or have a very good track record at the game. I honestly think I'm definitely the least experienced and probably the worst player out of the four by a decent margin. Just because like they're all just extraordinary players. Yeah, I think like particularly before the Tactics cards rotations, I think the matchup against Convocation is very, very, very difficult. So Schmid was probably the one that I was hoping not to draw until kind of the end, just because I think the defenders combo matchup is just hard.
Right.
Sooner I've played a couple times, probably just randomly. He's a really really good player. And then Curtis, I think I've also played a couple times randomly. I don't think I've gotten the chance to go against his Hellfire list. I think he plays more like Hydra and stuff when he's just screwing around.
Right.
So yeah, I think all of them are very good opponents, and yeah, I'm excited to play them.
Yeah, actually, when you say that, I am like immediately being pulled back into season 8 when the other players in the top four with me were Ryan, Janway, Morgan, Reed, and Nick, and all three of those players were like better than me. Basically, I was like I felt like I was in the position you're describing now, and but ultimately in season 8 I could have won, and I made the wrong decision halfway through the finals, and it didn't work out the way I would have hoped it would have. But so what I'm saying is that I wouldn't definitely believe you have everything it takes to win the matchup. You just need to have a little bit of luck go your way, which you're leaning on, like which the defenders lean on a little bit with the rerolls. And what was that? What was the phrase you used about the value or the return? What did you?
Expected value, maybe, or
Yeah,
variance, one of the two.
expected value. Yeah, there we go. So maybe you can lean on the expected value of your roster to
Yeah,
take
no,
up.
no. I think it's the great thing about the game too is look, I think they're all probably better than me, but like, I feel like I have a solid chance to win pretty
Yeah,
much any game, just because of how the game plays. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. The okay, so so just off the TTS league now. Well, I'm gonna ask you a few questions about the hobby. So, you mentioned you had a local game store. What's that like?
Yeah, so I live in Phoenix, Arizona, for most of the time. So there's like a really good scene here, I'd say. There's a TO who's great and kind of sets up events, I'd say at least once a month. And I mean, we get probably 20 people for most of the events, so
Nice.
like there's a lot of people who play. Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest differences from TTS is like in person, obviously, I think you get a lot more attached to your models. Just because like you've taken the time to paint them, you've taken the time to build them, and like that means there's a lot less rotation like across affiliation as probably there is online.
Right.
And so like yeah, there's a really good scene. I think there's a lot of really good players. Probably the biggest difference is like lists just aren't as optimized, I'd say, just because people are a lot more attached to like models, and then even if they're not like the top tier of competitiveness, they'll kind of run it. So yeah.
Right. I like to joke around and just say like the Marvel jumping into this Marvel game is like perfect for me, someone who doesn't really care about any sort of affiliation and like has no ties, because like anyone who does have ties, I can like take advantage of that situation and just play the broken stuff, and they're stuck in their little their winter guard favoritism and they're therefore they go into the match at like a 40% chance to win because of that, and I'll take advantage of that every time because I just want to win. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. Where it's like, I do think it's like pretty important to try to like you got to figure out like the type of list you should bring to stuff because like there's certain like just random game nights. Like if you bring some hyper optimized list, I think you make people feel bad.
Right, right. Of course, of
Oh,
course.
yeah, like, and that's where like I really like the in-person side because like you can run a lot more just like fluffy random stuff and have like really entertaining games still. And then I can use kind of the TTS side to like scratch the itch of like really being methodical about roster building and like really trying to build like quote unquote the best stuff for like win chances.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the perfect mix is when you go to a large event because you can get the in-person experience, and also you don't have to feel bad for bringing the most broken roster you can build for the affiliation you chose to bring. So it's like a good mix of both of those situations. I personally enjoy that like a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean I've never traveled to like one of the really big events, but I did get lucky enough to qualify for LVO this year, so I think I'll probably make the trip in January. But yeah.
That's very cool. Very cool. I'm excited to see you perform at LVO and match up against all the other players. It's probably one of the most. It probably is considered the most prestigious competitive event in North America because basically every round of the invitational it would be a finals in like any event that you'd play in. So it's like you just had to play 5 or 6 finals matches in a row, back to back to back, if you wanna win the event, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think it'll definitely be interesting, but yeah.
Okay, so what about painting? Are you a fan of painting, or like what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a pretty big collection now. I've painted some of it. It's definitely not like the part of the game I enjoy the most. But I I'm pretty new to it. I have found it like just more relaxing than anything. Like it's a good yeah, like if I just need to like zone out, I think that's where like the painting comes in. But like A, I'm not very good at it, and B, like I'm not somebody who that's like the big appeal of the game for me. It's more I just like having painted models on the table. So I'll do it, but it's not like the focus for me.
Right, right, pretty cool. I when I got into the hobby, it was the same type of thing, and then I sometimes it just comes in waves. There'll be like a month where just like I am really enjoying painting, and like I'll get 15, 20 things done, and yeah. So sometimes, but then sometimes it takes like months before that like hits me again. So it depends. I think it's usually like post event. I That's when I get it, especially like when coming back from an event. It's like I'm just like excited again about the whole hobby aspect of it. But yeah, that's I agree. I'm on the same page. It's really to play the models and then justify to my wife that like, hey, look, I have nothing to paint. I should buy
Gotta buy
something.
more.
Yeah, I gotta get more. Okay, so
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's definitely there, but yeah.
all right, well, are there any other final thoughts that you had on the game, like the game or the league, or any other final thoughts to share?
No, yeah, I mean, I just like obviously appreciative for the chance to play in kind of the semis. And then yeah, I mean, I think you and kind of the other like streamers and stuff. I think you guys do some pretty cool stuff. I really enjoy watching kind of some of the other games when I have time, and like it's a great thing to just have on the background while you're doing some other stuff. It just gives visibility into like roster building and like thought process behind moves that I find pretty valuable. Yeah, so just a thanks for doing all that.
Yeah, that is all. It is a lot of fun, and I should get you on commentary sometime if you're free.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean there's some days that aren't going to be good, but yeah, for days I'm available, I'd love to take a crack
I
at it.
will I will message you next season when another Defenders player is playing their match, and we'll get it sorted out. So thank you for joining
Sounds
me.
good.
Thank you very much for joining me, and good luck in your next one or hopefully 2 games.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, man. I'll catch you
All
later.
right, take care, bye.
All right.